And we're back, people. We are back, your favorite. Look, I've done this over the course of some time. I don't know why I have to keep telling you people I'm never lying. But your favorite sports podcast, roaming the airwaves, rolling with Ramos, is back. I happen to be the ones that holds the last name Ramos. I like to specifically, as I always do, like to thank my daddy for that. Well, Mike Ramos in heaven, I love you. I miss you every day. Episode 151. Now, if you were here for our last party, our last little shindig that we called episode 150, 8 years, 150, you was there. Now we're at 151, and we're going to keep mosey on there down this yellow brick road as it hopefully leads us to 160, 170, 80, 90, and 200. Episode 151. Shout out to the MLB, the Randy Johnson edition. Now, if you're seeing what you're seeing on the screen, don't worry. Tristan is going to join us in 2 seconds. He can hear us. He got to get his video set. So I'm not by myself tonight. But in true fashion, because we haven't had a guest for you guys on in a minute. And I got to take it back to not only taking it back to my favorite New Yorker. I don't care how many I know. Here's my favorite New Yorker. 1 and 2. Starting off in the game, this fella's giving me so much good advice. He let me come and be on his show one time. I got a chance to go to New York and go to Radio City Music Hall and be on his show. What a thrill that was, and we've been friends for years. Brandon, because he gets the scoop. Scoop B Robinson, he is the founder of Scoop B Radio and an NBA insider. It's about damn time you make it to Roland Ramos.
This ain't my first time. I remember when you were doing the phoners back in the day, and I'd call in and do the show.
I know, but now this is the vision. So this is technically the first time.
Okay, we back for the first time, like Ludacris was said.
Yes,
right?
We are. Yeah. And that wonderful face you see up at the top, that's my co-host. That's Tristan. What's up, Tristan?
What's going on? Like I said, technology be technology, and as I like to say. But we here, definitely excited about this show. Definitely excited to be on 151. Listen, I'm always grateful we in the triple digits with this show because a lot of podcasts don't even get to this milestone. So, kudos to you, Mikkel, for steady being the great captain and riding the ship. And I'm ready for this episode.
He is the true star. And also, I would like to say, as I'm sitting in front of a Jamaican, please, prayers go to Jamaica. Hope your family's okay.
Appreciate that. So far, so good. So far, so good.
Your family that's there, I'm pretty sure your parents have people there still. So best to Jamaica and everything that's going on there. Melissa can't take you down. All right. I know I got time constraint here, Scoop. You keeping me honest. I'm a woman to my word. You let me know when it's time for you to go, okay?
Okay.
Let's get right into this. This is the alleged connection between the Mafia and 2 former NBA players, Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups and longtime veteran Damon Jones, began the way such things often do through a little-known intermediary. That's one of the ways organized crime finds itself, fellas, into the way of locker rooms and athletes' inner circle, by degrees through introductions that seem harmless. In this case, prosecutors allege the intermediary was Robert L. Stroud, a 67-year-old Louisville man with a criminal history. In 1994, Stroud killed a man during an evening playing cards and gambling at a home in Louisville. According to local outlet Wave News, the outlet also reported that when Stroud was pulled over in 2001 for expired tags, a police officer found sports betting cards, dice, playing cards, and what appeared to be gambling records in the back seat. Stroud recruited Billups and Jones to take part in rigged poker games run by members of New York City's most prominent crime families, according to an indictment and accompanying sports documents made public last week. Stroud, Billups, Jones were among 34 people, including Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, arrested in 2 overlapping investigations. One focused on an illegal sports betting scheme that allegedly relied on insider NBA information. The other involved high-stakes poker games linked to the Genovese, Gambino, Lucchese, and Bonanno crime families. Prosecutors say Billups and Jones helped cheat participants out of more than $7 million through the use of X-ray tables, high-tech glasses, and other futuristic tools. Billups' attorney has denied wrongdoing by his client. I just want to say that my glasses are not one of the X-ray things. That was a part of that. I had nothing to do with that. Anyways, what in the Paid in Full and Mob Wives, because I used to love that show on VH1, is going on in the NBA. And you know, fellas, typically, I'm going to start with you, Brandon. The NBA plays their players very lucratively. And they do it enough to be able to stay out of this. If you're Chauncey Billups, if you're Terry Rozier, if you're Damon Jones, why get involved in something like this that can honestly just tear up a legacy? We talking about Hall of Famer, and tear up like things such as your reputation. Why?
I don't think everybody's situation is the same, and I'm not as informed on that topic to really discuss. But what I will just say in generalities is this: I will say that you don't really know. We're going based off of 3 individuals and the allegations as told to us. Still a court of law that still has to kind of disseminate and dissect those things, and they do their due process. But I think anytime you're in a situation where you are around privileged information, you have to guard it and be very careful. I don't whether you're in politics, whether you're in sports, and more. But I'll also add that when you look at the situation like this, you don't know the influences that those guys were under, whether, you know, they were forced to do something. You don't know the conversations. Was this a formal meeting? People on the golf course? Like, there's so many things that there are so many questions that I have, particularly when you're looking at individuals that are successful, but you also don't know what their financials look like. I think a lot of times people look at celebrities and think just because they're on television and just because they make a lot of money that they're rich. You also are looking at a head coach, a current player, and a former player. The former, so there's also multiple situations. You're looking at a poker table, and when people are alleging that, you know, there were see-through optics, whether that were glasses and whether that were contact lenses, and then you're looking at Terry Rozier, where he's being basically accused of throwing a game. You're looking at Chauncey Billups, where there are people who believe that he was approached by members of, you know, some entity. So yeah. I think right now a lot of facts are being sorted, and I also think that the whole model of sports betting at large is really you're looking at an overhaul potentially. Like, to me, when I look at this situation, you look at music downloading years ago, like in 98, 99, 2000, Napster. Napster was basically giving people the opportunity to download music for free. And then here came the streaming services of iTunes. Here came the streaming services of Netflix and more. Eventually, the models are going to be spliced in the favor of those who want their cut. And there's been a lot of money being discussed that has been exchanged, and the government wants their cut of the money. Uncle Sam is going to always want their money. And I think that is what you're seeing in real time. And unfortunately, somebody's got to answer some questions. And so I'm kind of waiting to see what the facts are in the case. But those are just some of the things that come across my mind as I'm kind of just observing headlines and really just, you know, having conversations with certain folks.
Shout out to LimeWire. You remember that in
college?
Remember that in college?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And you can share other people's stuff while I'm listening on somebody else's radio in a room. I don't even know where they at. And 2, in doing some more research as I was getting ready for the show, there's reports that Chauncey Billups may have been blackmailed. Tristan, your thoughts about all this? What a scandal.
Yeah, I look at it as I agree with what Brandon is saying. I think there's like a lot of layers to it. A lot of people are saying that, you know, that, you know, it's, even with Chauncey Billups, it's looking more like, you know, he could have been possibly scapegoated could possibly use as being like, the face of it to get all the, the brunt of the, the punishment and stuff like that, where there's others that it could be involved that just, basically just had a higher, higher ranking or stature to him than he had. I just feel it's unfortunate, and maybe this is just a bit of ignorance, because like I said, none of us are like in those shoes to really know what's going on. I just feel like it's just such an unfortunate circumstance to have someone that, has accomplished as much as Chauncey Billups has accomplished, has done as much as he's done, and then being in a head coaching position, which seems to be such a coveted spot, especially for African Americans, to have something like this come, and it's literally gone, and just like that. And there's really, even if he does come out kind of, somewhat unscathed by this or somewhat innocent, we live in a society now where, perception is your judgment. And so it's kind of always going to be that wear on him, in regards to, his future, or if any future in regards to coaching or anything like that. Again, so it was very, unfortunate to see. And then Terry Rozier, it makes it interesting because when you talk about throwing games, because I remember there were some games that I watched him with the Miami Heat, and I'm like, what are you doing, sir? And so even that kind of brings all of that into question now, because you're like looking at like, he did some uncharacteristic things for Terry Rozier. Not saying this guy was like otherworldly, but it makes you question. It's not to say it might have happened. He might have just had a bad couple games, but all those things raises eyebrows. It raises questions about how his play was and all that stuff. So it's an unfortunate, somewhat of a black eye for the NBA. We remember way back with the referee. Was it Donahue?
Tim Donahue.
And how that looked. And because of, he was one of the premier referees of the NBA. So you're thinking of big game moments where he could have been making bets and stuff like that, and making certain calls for the game for his own benefit. So it's just a bad look for the NBA. And I think it being isolated to a couple individuals probably doesn't make it as big as it could be, but it's still I would look at it as a black eye.
In this game, you only get one shot when your face is black, especially when you're in power. So you got to make it look good and make it happen, because you may not get that again, and that sucks. Let's mosey on down. The NBA is back. In news, in good news. Shout out to Draymond Green and the free throw line. I'm dancing like him when you miss one. How do you feel about the new season, fellas? This is the year where football and basketball collide.
And baseball.
We got Amazon now. NBA on TNT looks weird. It looks very weird not having 4 letters and not 3, but the guys are still together. How are we feeling about this season?
Go ahead, Brandon.
No, it's cool. I like it. It's still very early. I enjoy the NBA on NBC's broadcast quite a bit, just for nostalgia's sake, but also the commentary is pretty good. I like the in-studio look.
You do the jingle?
Definitely. But I mean, that's what got me, watching it. One of the main reasons. But it's good to see it. And as far as Kenny, Chuck, Shaq, and Ernie, you can't have a basketball night without those guys. So to me, they're the commentary of the league. They're the pulse of the league. So even though it's not at TNT, and by way of full rights, it's being licensed via TNT to ESPN. So, I mean, you still get the TNT nostalgia while also, looking at the other things. I did have Shaq as a guest on my annual series, Scoopy Selects, and we actually discussed what will, they only have a certain amount of games that they're doing, like the beginning of the week or the beginning of the season, Christmas, and the NBA Finals. And Shaq had informed me on Scoopy Selects that they're actually going to be doing some sort of podcasting mixed with just streaming episodic things, I guess, still being distributed or disseminated through, I guess, NBA on TNT, or rather TNT Sports' property. So I'm anxious to see what happens, what their rollout looks like after the NBA on ESPN rollout it continues. You know, I like to see what happens next.
Yeah. I want to shout out all my people that I know that used to work for TNT and missing that life this year. You'll bounce back. You'll be fine. Tristan, any thoughts on this new season thus far?
Well, listen, I agree. The nostalgia of it, NBA on NBC. I mean, like you say, hearing that jingle, I remember, trying to stay up a little bit and, had to turn the TV down a little bit. You heard the jingle. My dad would hear it in the back. He's like, "Hey, you got that TV on." But yeah, I absolutely love it. As far as on the court, I mean, just what we've seen so far with Wemby over there in San Antonio, I think he's about to really come into his own with what we've seen. A lot more aggressive, and really using all 7'5" of himself on that court defensively as well as offensively. I mean, could we possibly look at MVP and defensive player of the year simultaneously out of him? That's very much in play. I know it's still early, but I mean, to me, like, the East is wide open with the injuries that are on certain teams. I think Philly with the rookie, I think this is another opportunity for them to see if they can get over the hump and get into the finals. I know they still got to deal with the Knicks, but it's right there. We'll see what that look like. I think I saw Luka's going to be out for a little bit. Mm-hmm. We don't know what LeBron. I don't. To me, I'm not laughing at injuries, but it was just kind of funny to me with LeBron's age, and they talking about the sciatica. I'm like, well, yeah, sir. Of course, the sciatica going to start acting up at some point at your age. So, but hopefully, the Lakers can get them both back and see what it looks like. But shout out to Austin Reeves, looking like the White Mamba. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, I'm definitely excited about the NBA season and what's going on. And go ahead, Mikhail. I can go on and on. I mean, the NBA has been.
I was going to say, I hope we get some type of end to this process.
Right. Some kind of end.
Speaking of a process, the team that we used to seeing on top, who's having some injuries, you didn't mention them. The Celtics started the season 0-3 after losing to the Detroit Pistons 119-113. That marked the team's first 0-3 start to a season since the 2013-14 season, and they are currently dealing with injuries, particularly Jason Tatum. Poor rebounding and poor second quarter execution have been significant issues in their losses. Since then, yesterday to be exact, they picked up their first win of the season, a 122-90 win over the winless Pelicans themselves. It's going to take some time. We've lost 4 All-Stars from last season between Al, Drew, Kristaps, and JT being out. And Luke's an All-Star to me. Luke's an All-Star in all our hearts. We didn't lose one guy. We lost 5. To replace those guys, it doesn't happen overnight. That was Jaylen Brown. Fellas, most fans are saying that they agree with what Brown is saying, but they're also wondering, is there a chance to salvage the season in the situation? Or should they just hope to take a little bit so they can get a good pick before Tatum returns back to the court? Which way do you think they should go?
Yeah, Tris.
I mean, I'm always going to be like, you got to do your best to compete. But I think people have to understand, Tatum being out, you knew that this was going to be a rough go. I mean, and like Jaylen Brown said, you lost some pieces from last year. I mean, it's not to say like all the horses are there and you're playing bad. You're kind of relearning this new chemistry with this lineup. Without Jason Tatum and without some of those other guys on the floor. So you're learning this all over again. I think if anything, this should be the moment for Jaylen himself to kind of show why he got the money that he got. I mean, a lot of people used to think like, Celtics have 2 number 1 options. But this is the time for him to really show himself of why he's worthy of the contract that he had gotten. And it's not to say that he can't live up to it, but I think he should embrace it. Because we're not going to see JT for the foreseeable future. I know they've tried to have conversations in regards to him of when he's going to come back in a certain timetable, but I mean, even more so than football, I really am leery about rushing basketball players back from injuries like an Achilles, where you're stop and go on a dime. You have to make sure that his leg is all the way right to be able to do that. So I wouldn't push for him to be rushed back so soon. So this is where coaching comes in. This is what it looks like. It's about coaching, about how you get the chemistry with your squad together and all that. This is when you got to show your stripes.
Well, I think number one, they're definitely missing Jason Tatum, but where I think they're still benefiting is you look at Jaylen Brown. He's actually not the team leader in minutes per game. It's actually Peyton Pritchard.
Mm-hmm.
He's averaging 34.5 minutes per game while scoring 15.8 points per contest. But you look at the stats, Jaylen Brown, it starts at 26 points per game. Then it drops off like 10.5. You got Derek White, 16.5 points. Peyton Pritchard, 15.8. And Pritchard's had a couple of good games statistically. But one of the things that I found interesting about the Boston Celtics going into the season that I think people weren't paying attention to because they were watching a team playing, in some people's eyes, meaningless basketball minutes was Anthony Simons, who was now on the Boston Celtics. He was shipped there, and Anthony Simons was I remember when he first came into the league, was playing alongside Damian Lillard in the Portland Trail Blazers during Lillard's first step with Portland, and I'm glad to see him kind of fit that puzzle as Jason Tatum has been out. And I think that when you look at the stat lines across the board, Simons is giving you 15 points, and then Sam Hauser is giving you 10.8 points. Hauser, I remember, I think it was Hauser was on that team during the NBA Finals. If it wasn't Hauser, it was Pritchard. But I just remember seeing a lot of guys who were on the bench, even guys that play on the Indiana Pacers now, that were on Boston during the finals run, and they're really getting their time. Like, I think that this is a rest period for Tatum this year. I wouldn't necessarily rush it because I think you have so many other contributors on that team, whether that is White, whether that is Pritchard, whether that is Simons, that can fill a stopgap. They, as you mentioned, they got rid of Kristaps Porzingis. He's in Atlanta, and I think Atlanta and Orlando are both surprise teams. I picked going into the season, and I think those are specifically Orlando. They're a team that I think could challenge Cleveland and the New York Knicks come playoff time if they stay healthy. I'll also add, Tristan, I thought you brought up a good point about the San Antonio Spurs. Not just the play of one in Victor Wembanyama that basically can get any shot he wants. He got the fadeaway. He's got the alley-oop. He's got the 360 loop-de-loop layup. But I think what people are not talking enough about is really the play of Dylan Harper out of Rutgers University, who I picked at the beginning of the season to get the league's MVP, the league's Rookie of the Year award. If that happens, he'd be the third Spur in a row to be honored with that, starting with Wemby and then Stephon Castle and with Dylan Harper if he does get it. So there's a lot of things I was paying attention to going into the season, and then things I'm looking at during the season. I don't expect Boston to continue to slide it over 3. I think at some point you're going to see them kind of. But Mikal, as you mentioned, Al Horford going to Golden State, and then Jason Tatum being out. Those are two of the hearts and souls of that particular team. And Tatum's still a member of the Celtics and seemingly out for a minute. I wouldn't rush it back, but I think they can still get it together without Tatum.
I want to take it back to a point you just brought up before we get into our next topic. When we talk about the Spurs, we know Greg Popovich he's not on the bench anymore, and that was such a staple growing up and watching him and the influence he's had on his players and what he's done for the Spurs organization. But in the new repertoire of him not being there, it still feels like he's sitting there. You know, he still has a lot of stock and influence on his team. How much did they prepare him? How much did he prepare them for life without him? And
well, of course,
should Pop get out of this?
Mitch Johnson, now the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. Greg Popovich, now the president of basketball operations over in San Antonio. I'll be honest with you. First of all, San Antonio had been kind of preparing for this whole thing throughout the course of the season, but in small increments. And really, I think you started to see their blueprint take shape at the draft. with Mitch Johnson, as well as some of the other staff with the San Antonio Spurs, only looking to bring in one player at the draft, and that was Dylan Harper. Actually went to his high school, Don Bosco Prep in Ramsey, New Jersey, and scouted him out. And from what I'm understanding and what I've been briefed by the Spurs organization after the fact was that, they told him that they saw him as their point guard of the future amongst other greats that were there already. And, that's in line with some of the conversations that Pop was having with Tim Duncan, as well as David Robinson and more. When I look at Victor Wembanyama, he's a cornerstone of that franchise, and he's definitely got some guys within an organization that are going to back him. Stephon Castle, as I mentioned before, as well as Dylan Harper and Vassell and some of the other guys on that team. But I think they've been slowly rebuilding their franchise. While Pop is still there, he still has some influence. It kind of reminds me a lot of what the Oklahoma City Thunder did, probably from 2019 until they won their championship last year. It began when they shipped Paul George to the Los Angeles Clippers in exchange for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And then they went through the draft and just built a lot. And they really learned from their mistakes of their unit with Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook years ago. Because imagine had James Harden stayed, they gave them a little bit more money. We might be talking about Oklahoma City in the same ways that we've talked about the Golden State Warriors for years. And so when I look at the future of the NBA, I definitely think San Antonio is one of those teams for the long run in the next 5 to 10 years that will continue to build for their future because they went through the draft. And it reminds me so much of what Oklahoma City did in getting Shai and then ultimately winning a championship with Chet Holmgren, Jaylen Brown, and some of the other pieces.
Anything to add there, Tristan?
I absolutely agree. I think they've been really strategic. I think they knew that not necessarily stepping into a new era, because like you said, there's still his DNA that's around. But they knew that they had to go into this shift. They had periods of time where they knew it was time to shift into a new space. So you had, when you had the dealings with the Admiral, and then you brought in Tim Duncan when the Admiral was still playing, but it just was enough to kind of make the transition going in for Tim Duncan, and then building, like you said, getting Manu Ginobili, getting Tony Parker and those guys, and going through that period. Then you started drafting and going, and you ended up with Kawhi, and then started going into that era. And who knows how that would have looked if that relationship wasn't severed between Kawhi and the Spurs in that moment. And then again, getting Wemby. So another cornerstone player, now building around the cornerstone player. It's the same process. So the DNA is still there of Popovich, but the Spurs organization has done a marvelous job of kind of setting a blueprint of how you really should run this. And I think OKC even took that from them for their early ons with Kevin Durant and Harden and Westbrook. But like I said, according to James Harden, it was just like a couple $1 million short. What that could have looked like. And again, remember, even when they had even Jeff Green on that roster, they knew how to build. So I think this is a similar situation. 5-10 years, we're going to be looking at a possible another 2-3 championship squad with the Spurs once again, just because of how they're built out. So I am looking forward to that.
And I'm looking forward to hoping that you guys enjoy this content because, I go out and I get the scoop. Brandon Scoop P. Robinson is joining us. I'm Mikal Tristan. We mosey on down to a Pelican that used to be a former Wizard. And Tristan, I don't know if you took this personal. I was scrolling a little bit and I happened to see somebody comment that I know that I don't sit next to you, but you're like adjacent to me. And yeah. I feel like he's talking about Washingtonians out here. We all know that Jordan Poole doesn't play for the Wizards anymore. He plays for the Pelicans. And during a recent practice, he made waves, but for his thoughts on his former team, not the team itself, but the crowd. He talking about the fans. He talking about the Washingtonians. He's talking about Capital One Arena, okay? When asked about the Pelicans' home crowd, he used the moment to deliver a sharp critique of his former team's atmosphere in Washington. I went back and I told all my people, like, It feels so good to be in an environment where the fans are engaged. You can feel the electricity in there, Yahoo reports. You can feel the fans chanting, Poole said via Legion Hoops. Like the last 2 years, question mark, dead in there. It was dead in Capital One Arena. Now, I will say this. He played in Washington during the team's most forgettable seasons, hit or miss, but statistically his frustration might be justified. The Wizards ranked near the bottom of the NBA in attendance last season, drawing an average of just 16,084 fans per game. Their total home attendance of 643,363 was among the league's lowest, despite Capital One Arena, I did not know this, boasting the third largest capacity in the NBA at more than 20,000 seats. Combined with the Wizards, 33 and 131 record. Over Poole's 2 seasons, it paints a bleak, picture of a franchise struggling to inspire its own fan base.
Listen, as someone who worked for NBC Sports and
I did too. How about that?
Yeah, and had to do Wizards games and stuff like that. Listen, if you give them something to cheer for, that place would be rocking. If you give them something to cheer about, I even go back to the days when I worked at WJLA. The what season was that? Was that the 2017-18 season with John Wall and that playoff run?
Yes.
You couldn't tell the city anything.
No.
The city was, all over was just live and lit. Everything was great. And we still remember when he hit the shot and jumped up on the score. It was incredible.
I just needed somebody to win on the road, but it's okay, no problem.
Exactly. But what can you say what that record was the past 2 seasons?
33 to 131.
So
131.
So how do you expect fans to be lively with that kind of situation? How do you expect fans
$5 and a hot dog?
And here's the thing. This is not a fan base that has had a franchise where you look at let me get a good example. I can only do it from a football perspective immediately in my mind. When you think of the New England Patriots, when they had their struggles with Mac Jones and such, Patriots fans were still gung-ho. We're still full of life, full of energy. Why? Because they weren't so far removed from the Tom Brady and Bill Belichick era. The reason why Steelers fans are still Steelers fans and that stadium's always going to be rocking. Why? Because they have some kind of memory of the Steelers being a dominant franchise as far as winning Super Bowls and things like that. We have to look back to when the Wizards weren't the Wizards, when they were the Bullets. That's when my daddy was looking at that. I don't think I was watching basketball yet. This is what we look at. Same thing with the Washington Commanders. Look how the Washington Commanders are, even with this season being what it is, still selling out home field, still doing it. Why? Because we got a glimpse to see what this team could be. You have to give them something. Fans are not going to waste their money, especially in this economy, are not going to waste their money to come in and watch you jack up threes, watch you careless with the basketball, Jordan Poole, watch you came over here and we're thinking, oh, we're getting like the step splash brother, but we're going to make him our own guy. And you ended up looking like half the time you didn't care to be on the court. You looked like you didn't care to be on the court. At least when Russell Westbrook came here, you saw the intensity. You saw the want to win. You saw the drive. You saw him trying to lead his team. That's why we appreciated Westbrook. That's why we appreciated Russell Westbrook when he was here. Because even though we didn't get the success that we would have liked, but we saw the tenacity and the passion that we wanted a leader of our team to be. And you were brought here and you were paid to be the leader of the team, and you were the complete opposite of that. So yes, enjoy your time in New Orleans. Go have some beignets. Go ahead and have a good time being the afterthought after Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. If that's your safe space that you can flourish in, then by all means, prosper, brother. Prosper. Have all the crawfish in the world. Enjoy yourself. But don't try and play like you did everything you could to help the Wizards franchise try to be something these last 2 years when you know that was the total opposite. Don't try to play the fans like that.
I didn't. So I, like you guys, spent significant time around the Wizards over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And what I'll say is that sometimes when you read a quote versus seeing it in video, you can interpret it differently.
Yeah.
And so I think anything that players say, and once it gets recycled through Twitter and through social media, sometimes it gets lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
I think that when you're asked a question like that, when you read it, again, you can interpret it differently. But I also do think that when you look at the Wizards post the bubble, their records have gotten significantly worse, and they're actually a better away team than they are a home team. If I'm not mistaken, last year they won 18 on the road, and what was it? It was significant. Like, I think they won more on the road than they did away. But why would people want to spend money at home when they know you're going to lose? And when they spend money, they're only going to spend money on seeing the Warriors, the Lakers, the Knicks, the Celtics, and then ticket sales. They're going to do price packaging for lower tier games. Like right now, you might imagine it would be like the Nets or the Raptors or Memphis. But Memphis is tricky. But I think that for Jordan Poole, like Kyle Kuzma, they both won championships early. And because they got to Washington, I think they got a little comfortable, but that's because they won a ring already. I also think that Washington is kind of rewriting their script. Keontae George is on that team, and they're really looking to not only shine with him, but Ken Whitmore. And there's something about CJ McCollum when he joins a team, he actually makes them better. And so I was kind of intrigued to see how McCollum was going to play in Washington after he moved from Portland to New Orleans. Like, those young teams are going to absorb his game like a sponge. I was around that Pelicans team last year and was around CJ, and just in talking to some of the guys on that team, whether that was Zion, whether talking to Jose Alvarado, they really his locker was near his and on the road, and talking about Jose Alvarado, and the guys are just really soaked up a lot of game in New Orleans. So I would imagine that a lot of that conversation is extending to Washington, whether that's Bilal Coulibaly, whether that is just even Alex is having a better year this year as well. Alex Sarr is having a better year than he did last year. Like, I almost said Alex Len. Alex Sarr is having a better year this year. So I just think there's just so much youthful movement exuding within the Capitol. I'm excited to see Kim Whitmore, who I spent some time with this summer, get more acclimated to that Washington situation. Like, is he a natural 3? Is he a 4? Like, where do you play him? So yeah. I think while the conversation is about what Jordan Poole said, Jordan already won. And I think he's in a situation where he was a league leader in points last year, and he's on a team with Zion, which when Zion is hurt, and I think he's out for the next game, it's going to give Jordan Poole the ability to play on that team and score more points. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think the trade will end up working out for everybody.
You can also say that his words were saying after his own personal experience, hey, I've been in a situation where nobody was in the crowd going off, and now I can be in a situation where maybe I can let some of that go and feel something different in this tier of my career. There's plenty of ways that we can go with this, but a lot of people here took that personal school.
I think for me, and I'm not even a Wizards fan. I root for home teams, but I'm not a Wizards fan.
Yeah.
But I think for me,
it wasn't even MCI vibes. We want to take it back.
Right. If it was Russell, like if I think about like a star recent on the squad like that, if it was like Russell Westbrook that said something like that, I probably wouldn't have been offended. Why? Because I watched Russell give it everything he had on that floor. I can take that. It might sting, but I can take that. But I mean, I'm watching Jordan Poole look like on some games that he just didn't care to be on the floor. Like if you sat him, he'd be cool. Like that's why I'm just like, bro, just go just enjoy the Mardi Gras. You know what I'm saying? All the Cajun spices. New Orleans is great. Love New Orleans. So just have a time. Don't talk about DC.
Speaking about spicy, and Scoop, please still keep us honest. We know you're busy. You got places to go. Just keep me honest. So, speaking of spice, but this ain't nice. Some people we know has some words. Kendrick Perkins and Ja Morant. You the reason for my notoriety part? Come on, dog. LOL. You showing them why we're going to say don't mess with you, but that's not what he said. He said some other things. I don't mess with your kind. That was Ja. Clapping back at ESPN analyst Kendrick Perkins after he recently shared some words about Ja while appearing on the Out the Mud podcast with former Grizzly stars Tony Allen and Zach Randolph. Shout out to Zach. I used to love Zach back in the day. I was cool with Ja at one point, but when Ja started getting in trouble with some of his stuff, he didn't say stuff, but I'm keeping it classy, off the court and stuff like that, I had to speak on it. Ja don't really, he don't mess with me. He didn't say nothing either. Again, I'm keeping it firm to, national TV standards. With me, no more. To be honest, in that type of situation, I don't bleep with Ja. Honestly, in the past, Perkins has voiced concerns that Morant's off-the-court issues are distracting and damaging to his career and reputation as a role model. Ja wasn't feeling those comments. I, for one, thought Ja's comments kind of reiterated what Perkins really saying. Like, we're looking for maturity. We're looking for you to have this coming out party of change. A lot of people rooting for Ja. Kendrick Perkins, one of those, because if you really watch that interview, he said he told people to go see him. Were you getting all access passes to go see Memphis when the last time that happened? Because Ja was there and he was really invigorated by what this kid was doing. What do we think about this one, fellas?
Perk is a friend of mine, and it is on my to-do list to reach out to him to have more of a conversation about that, because I have some questions. It's only off of clips.
We will get the inside back when you get here. We will be the first one to call. My ear is here.
but what I'll say is that I understood what he was saying. The thing about the games, and I have some questions about that. I feel like that would be like claiming Ja's high school career, his college career, more like Ja worked hard to get to where he is. Yes. I do think that Perk as a commentator does amplify those things and draw attention to those things. And he does, like Big Body Brunson, when he talks about Jalen Brunson and all that stuff, I think he does do a good job of amplifying that. As far as claiming the games, I'm not sure about that. I'll have to get back to you on that. But as far as, Ja Morant's play, I do think that Ja has a lot to prove. He went from being the media darling and in some people's eyes, drawing social engagement to the point that was similar to what Steph Curry was getting. And so I think there's a frustration that Perk had, because knowing Perk and knowing how he thinks, there was a frustration. It's like, man, you have all this and then this happened. If I was a Perk interpreter, that's probably what I think he was getting at. Yeah. But I do think that Ja also has a right to speak his mind, and he seemingly did. So I do think that I do want to see Memphis do better. I actually think that the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope acquisition for the Memphis Grizzlies will work exponentially for them, because I actually think both teams, the Orlando Magic as well as the Memphis Grizzlies, got what they needed. And I think that for Perk If I'm John Morant and I feel a way about what Kendrick Perkins says, I make Perk eat his words by performing at a high standard and taking Memphis to the next level. The Western Conference is up for grabs. That's my thought process on the discourse between John Morant and Kendrick Perkins.
I'm going to ask this question, and Tristan, I want your thoughts first, and then I want to circle back to you, Brandon. When you talk about Ja and how hard he's worked to get to the level at which he has, especially going to the college he went to, nobody was really looking for Ja, and then you seen this rise in this guy that everybody was like, who is this? You talk about the hip hop culture. If we're talking about Allen Iverson and Jadakiss, I mean, they ran so that him and Lil Baby could be out there crawling where they at right now. So, and then at this point in bigger situations, this was the next top of the face of the league. This was what people were looking at as being we talk about Ant, and Ant is awesome, but people were looking at John that same parameters. And yes, he had some issues. He had some hardships and some things that he went through. And you kept thinking at some point he was going to be able to turn around. Maybe he couldn't get in his own ear in a sense and be like, hey, maybe what I am doing isn't in the right mindset. He apologized. He said some things. And we've been waiting for this redemption tour. Because in sports, hey, you're only as good as the last thing you did. If you're winning and you're doing what's right, people forget about that. And I personally, as a fan of Ja, and people that know, and as a family that lives in South Carolina, is very close to his family, that I have family that's close to his family, I've been waiting for, it seems like this redemption thing from him, for him to reclaim that seat. Has that really been that type of thing? Am I in the right direction when I say that we're still waiting on that? And how you feel about those thoughts, Tristan?
Well, I think we're still waiting on it because one, when he came back, when he was like officially back, remember he got hurt and he was gone for a significant amount of time. I think that kind of blurred the vision of the redemption. And then when he did come back, it was still like on, somewhat restricted minutes, kind of on temporary time. So we haven't really get to see him really, marvel on the floor the way we would have wanted him to, because he got hurt. He got hurt and missed a significant amount of time. I believe he got hurt last year again. And so you just didn't get to really see it. And then you got to understand too, when he was projected to be the face, he had commercials. He lost that big endorsement deal with Powerade. And so a lot of people kind of backed away. So he kind of is still on the redemption arc. It just didn't go the way he wanted it to go because he didn't get to come back guns blazing because of injuries. But what I will agree with Perk, and I think a lot of the veterans would feel this way, is that you saw the stardom. He played fearless. He had a smile on his face, but he had that killer instinct to go get it, bucket getter, and all that. And then to do that, to have all that, you had your dad on the sidelines, courtside, watching him play, and his dad got some swag to him and all this stuff. So you watching this and it's all well and good. And then with the off the field stuff came about, what happened was that it just didn't seem like he had any remorse for a good portion of time of what he was doing. It was like, oh, well, this is me. And it's like, oh, well, we can't endorse that. We can't, like we can't get behind you trying to be this like quote unquote gangster. Like you can't have it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've paid you too much money. There's kids that look up to you. You're represented a certain kind of way. And so for a good portion of time, it just didn't look like he had any remorse or sympathy for the matter. It was almost like, yo, this is me, kind of get with it or get gone. And I remember a lot of times people were like, well, where's his dad? Like, stop, I remember there were times some people were like, stop being his buddy and be his father. Talk to this boy. Like, stop being like this. So
I feel like that part about his dad gets pushed a lot without people knowing what's being said behind closed doors.
I agree.
Just because people say that he should talk to his father, or rather his father should talk to him, who's to say his father doesn't talk to him? And hypothetically his son is not listening. How many times did we not listen to our parents when we were out? And we weren't making the kind of money he was making, but at the same time, I can just tell you that that his father and his son were having those conversations, and maybe
Yeah.
those aren't always those conversations aren't for like
Public.
for public consumption. Yeah, so I can tell you that they do have the conversations. Now, what his son does with that advice, that's a different story.
Yeah.
I think he had to change his circle. I think
Sure.
his circle wasn't that great for him, and that's, I mean, how many times have we heard that kind of story with these athletes? So I think maybe we should look at this season, see how it goes,
Okay.
and see how he is. But from my memory, I just remember that his return, he had that awesome game, and it just seemed like we're about to see this ramp up, and then he got hurt, and so it's out of sight, out of mind. So the lasting impression is still for people's heads is all the drama
Mhm.
off the court. So I think let's just see how it looks for this season.
Well, maybe this or may fuel something within them, or this could just be an added notch to whatever the conversation is. This is open-ended, fellas, because this next topic I wanted to go into A'ja Wilson. We talk about all the time how she just needed one more. Tristan, you called it, and the GOAT conversation was there. We seen the accolades she's getting in South Carolina. We seen her relationship with Bam, her vulnerability to share her life, the shoes, her contract. I wanted to, while you were here, to go into some WNBA talk, and get your thoughts, Scoop, on A'ja, and especially in a league where we talk about Caitlin, and we've, no disrespect to her, and we've talked about Angel Reese. We talked about this sophomore class that's now a sophomore class going into their third year. We talked about everybody else, but in true fashion, you could not forget about her. There was no way you could. And how do you feel about her place on top of this throne?
I'm just happy for A'ja Wilson. Nice woman, excellent ball player, dope person. I've gotten to know Bam quite a bit over the last 6 months. I spent some time with him in Chicago and in New York this past season. And I like his temperament, and I think that there is a level of loyalty that Bam does have for the Miami Heat, the city of Miami, and his relationship with Pat Riley has been flowing, as well as head coach Eric Spoelstra for some years. I just like to see them get some help on the personal side with both he and A'ja. I think he's very respectful to A'ja's parents. I spent some time with her dad earlier this summer, and during their whole beginning of the season and the launch of the A'ja shoe and through Nike. And it was cool to see everybody in their circle in solidarity wearing the pink version of that shoe, even the men in her family. And it's cool to now see that there's a red colorway for that shoe. And if Bam and A'ja are smart, they find a way to kind of blend that into Bam's repertoire of sneaker rotation during the season because of that red colorway. But I like their relationship at large because they're mysterious, and even though people keep asking them 50 zillion questions about it, they're supportive of each other's career. They go to each other's games, and what's understood doesn't have to be spoken about. They're very understated, and I respect that about them.
Tristan.
Yeah, you already know. How I feel.
Yes,
Like,
I figured.
from the South Carolina days, I just love her makeup. I love how I love how her family raised her. I love her character. It's genuine. You can always you kind of tell like who's trying to put on for cameras and put on for public, but she is unapologetically her, and I love it. I love the humility that she has because she is a dominant player. She is a force for what she does, what she's continuing to do, and there's no slippage. She's another one. We said it last season. She's another one where it's like you're just hoping she has a off day. Like there's not really an answer for her. But the humility,
with her, 2 defenders on her.
exactly. But the humility that comes with that, like even with her getting the MVP, how much it meant to her, and it's just like, girl, we were saying you was getting the MVP back in June. You know what I'm saying? But it just meant so much to her to receive that, and how she uses her platform to put on for her teammates. She shows them love. She shows Becky love. I just love her entire makeup. She's a great ambassador for the WNBA, and I love their relationship. Like Brandon said, I love Bam and Asia's relationship. I love how he supports her. And you can tell that there's no ego. It's not trying to, not trying to say like, oh well, she's got all these accolades and all this stuff, and or it look like Bam's trying to ride coattails. They just genuinely
ride each other's. They help each other ride each other's coattails.
Exactly, like you could.
The most private public relationship you've ever seen.
Exactly, and it's so beautiful.
Getting the ankles on the pink.
Yes, I loved watching. I loved watching when she gets all giddy when he comes around, and same thing with him. Like it's so beautiful to see. It's so pure, and it's wonderful to see. I think it's good for both sports. Like Brandon said, I hope we can see it like how he was when with the WNBA season, coming and watching her. And I know she's been at the Heat games, but as like the NBA season ramps up, I hope we can even see more of her there, and that they have that, because I think that's beautiful. But I just love everything about A'ja Wilson. She's fantastic. I definitely got to get the shoes. I'm just trying to be smart about my money right now, but I'm definitely trying to get like all the colors.
Every outfit. Last thing on this NBA topic list. How do we feel about the girlies being on the sideline? And when I say the girlies, I'm talking about our Black Wags, our Sierras, our Simone Biles. Now we got Megan Thee Stallion on there. Now we got Glorilla watching her man. How beautiful has this been able to see?
That came out of nowhere.
And private and public. Is that how you gotta do it?
I love it. I ain't mad at it at all.
Now, Scoop, I'm going into some football. Am I still with you? Are you still with me?
Well, I'm trying to watch the rest of this game, but I'm glad that we were able to talk basketball.
Yes. Well, unless they're living under a rock, shout out to entrepreneurship. Shout out to Baron Davis. Shout out to your interview with Baron Davis and all the beautiful things you do. Unless they're living under a rock and they just have no recollection of time and who the people to watch, tell them where they can find you.
Scoop B Radio, available on all streaming platforms. Visit the blog at scoopb.com. We garnered 10 million streams in 2021. Have had anybody from Mark Cuban to DJ Khaled to Shaq to multiple other people as guests. And a lot of new things coming pretty soon, so be paying attention. But follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Scoop B, and keep it locked in.
When I grow up, I want to be like you because I want to be in tunnels shaking Stephen Curry's hand. But I mean, God's around.
Bless you. Thank you for making space for me on your platform. And Tris, pleasure to meet you as well.
You're no longer a guest in my home. You get your own glass next time.
I'll hold you to that. Pineapple and rum. Let's do it.
All
right, my man.
All right, y'all. I'll talk to you.
All right now.
All right.
Tristan, let's finish this off. LSU will not win a national title under Coach Brian Kelly after the team's disastrous second half performance in a 49-25 loss to Texas A&M. Kelly was fired. Kelly and the school are still working out details on the buyout. When Coach Kelly arrived at LSU 4 years ago, we had high hopes that he would lead us to multiple SEC and national championships during his time in Baton Rouge, said athletic director Scott Woodard. Ultimately, the success of the level that LSU demands simply didn't materialize. Kelly, who signed a 10-year, $100 million contract when he was hired ahead of the 2022 season, has an official buyout over $50 million that could eclipse the number Penn State will pay James Franklin after firing him earlier this season if it is not negotiated down. Your thoughts?
I don't know why he thought that he was going to see multiple national championships out of Brian Kelly. I didn't as an LSU fan, LSU football fan, I ain't never liked Brian Kelly being the head coach.
Wow, that's strong.
I didn't like the hire. I did not believe it was going to be successful. I did not believe he was going to do what the athletic director had hoped he was going to do. First of all, you can't get your coaching staff right. When you had a great offense, your defense was terrible. Now you got a competent defense, your offense is terrible. Nussmeier, who's supposed to be a projected top top pick in the draft, has regressed at the quarterback position. We lost a 5-star QB to Michigan, of all places, to Michigan. You don't even get me started on and I apologize for getting his name. Don't get me started on the guy, the player that he had that had the brain tumor that you didn't contact at all when he was going through all this stuff. Didn't contact him, not near one time. Yeah. Your assistant coaches are the ones that contacted that boy and his family when he was going through that. You paid him no mind. This is the same Brian Kelly that was on the sidelines mouthing off to one of his players to the point where you can understand everything he was saying to his players. One of his leaders on the defense side of the ball. Like, no, I couldn't tell you how excited I was as a fan when I got that notification that Brian Kelly was fired. It needed to happen. It should have happened sooner. I understand that he had the benefit. He had Jaden Daniels to kind of cover some of the wounds that he was causing over there in LSU because Jaden Daniels was being a wonder kid on the way to winning the Heisman Trophy and being the number 2 pick in the draft last year.
Yeah.
But now you see when he doesn't have an all-world talented player, you see what the makeup of Brian Kelly looks like. I really don't have too much to say on him. You saw how he was for Notre Dame, and then here comes Marcus Freeman taking Notre Dame to a national championship appearance. You don't even have LSU contending in the top 12.
Yeah,
we're still in October, and you already are mathematically eliminated from the top 12 playoff picture. LSU.
I'm not a fan of
the
Byron Lacey thing neither. I thought you could have been more
exactly
behind that young man as well.
Exactly.
You didn't even want to make a comment about the recent report that came out. That
come on, to even talk about the boy's character. You didn't want to do nothing. So my whole thing is, all your stuff off the field. Your first press conference, you're trying to put on a fake Louisiana accent, and everybody know that's not you. You doing all these little video promos with all these players, and they all leave it. They all ready to go into the transfer portal to get away from your program. Like, let's not even do this. Like, I didn't like the hire. I didn't really like that Coach O got fired, but I understand to an extent. But I definitely didn't feel like you're going from Coach O to Brian Kelly was an upgrade. And you think about it like this. All the coaches that have played for LSU have come out with a national championship in their tenure. Nick Saban, national championship in his tenure. Les Miles, national championship in his tenure. Coach O, national championship in his tenure. And you had a Heisman Trophy winning QB, and you couldn't even sniff. Even if you didn't win it, you couldn't sniff a bowl game. Get out of here. I was so happy. And I hope that the athletic director, I hope this is a lesson learned. I hope you take your time and be strategic. Now, I know, it seems like a lot of players like the interim head coach that's there now, but I think you should be strategic when the season is over to figure out who your next head coach is going to be. And it's got to be someone that has the mental makeup to really ingratiate. Being an LSU coach, it's not just the X's and O's. You can't fake it. Them people down there in Louisiana are not people to fake and pretend like you're part of the culture. You got to really be in the culture. Nick Saban had that character. Les Miles was crazy, called him Mad Hatter, but he fit that mold. Coach O fit the mold. You got to naturally fit, and Brian Kelly never naturally fit and didn't want to fit because it was his way or the highway, and this is the result.
Not to mention, if you've seen the trail of what comes out of LSU, how do you stop that? The buck stopped with you.
Exactly.
Outside of Jaden, it stopped with you.
Exactly.
There's nothing you're producing to come into the season.
Exactly. I mean, Nussmeier, the QB, was supposed to he was projected coming in to be a top 10, possibly a top 5 pick. He has regressed under your watch, and you being an offensive mind at that. Shameful.
Going into the NFL, the Eagles, Tristan, 38. Giants 20. Jalen Hurts 15 to 20, 179 yards, 4 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley 14 carries, 150 yards, 1 touchdown. The Eagles, who are sitting at 6-2, even the season series against their NFC East rivals after the Giants won 34-17 earlier this month, and they put the rest of the league on notice over the last 2 games that their offense has been, it's back in the groove. You know, we spent a lot of time talking about we're at this point of the season, Tristan, where, you know, we're still trying to figure out who the front runners are and who's going into February, who's going into the playoffs, January, looking good. We're trying to figure out that Super Bowl contender in some form of conversation. And I'm pretty sure every Eagle fan that's out there is going to appreciate me saying this. How dare we forget about the Eagles? Can we forget about the guys that actually have the ring on their finger and trying to get it again?
No. You can't forget about them. I still think there's some stuff going on, but they're just so talented of a squad that they're able to kind of get past some of the noise and stuff that's happening. Like they're just too talented. It's like it's literally pick your poison, and the only way that they really struggle is when they can't get out of their own way. But if they can get out of their own way, they're still the top team to be, especially in the NFC. They're still the top team to be. There's nothing you can really do. I think as their offensive line gets more healthy, we'll see what's up with Saquon and that groin injury. They said it was minor, so we'll see what that, But Bigsby came in and had 100 some yards as well. I think, let me see them against stiffer competition.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the Giants, and speedy recovery for Cam Scatterboo. He's one of my
bright spots of the season, yeah.
For sure, and one of my favorite players to watch. Even him coming out of Arizona State. I was crushed when the Giants drafted him only because I knew his mental makeup, and if he was going to do anything, he was going to be a stud, and he's shown that. So speedy recovery to him. But it was still the Giants, whose run defense is not that great. So let's see how the Eagles look in stiffer competition, but they're a team that you cannot ignore them. You can't ignore them. You can't watch them. They are the Super Bowl champions. And a lot of the pieces have returned. We'll see if Brandon Graham gives them some juice. Him coming out of retirement to help, be in the pass rush rotation.
Stay away long, could you?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how that looks. But yeah, you can't ignore them. No.
This week, I found myself in my closet crying on the ground. Justin Fields gets vulnerable after leading the Jets to first win of the season. 39-38 over the Bengals. 21-32, 244 yards, 1 touchdown. On the ground, 11 carries for 31 yards. Breece Hall, 18 carries, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. Honorable mention because the Unks out here playing, Tristan. Joe Flacco, 21-34, 223 yards, 2 touchdowns. Redemption is, and Justin Fields went considerably when you look at him. It's like, wow, he's still so young. But to hear him talk like that and to see the couple of years he's had, how do you feel about him? What do you say to the Jets? if you're evaluating what he was able to do and how he felt about that.
I don't know who's the worst owner. If it's Woody, if it's Haslam in Cleveland, if it's the Bengals, I don't know. I don't know who's worse. I don't know how you can talk about your starting quarterback the way he did last week. And, shout outs to Justin Fields. I just feel like he got a really raw deal coming into the league. The dysfunction of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
And then going to another dysfunctional team with the Jets and trying to right the ship. he hasn't been fantastic, but he also hasn't been terrible, and he hasn't been the reason that they're losing. Um, and I just feel like he's gotten a raw deal. And for Woody Johnson to say what he said, it's like, you're the problem. You're the one that signs off on these deals. You're the one that gave Justin Fields that money. If you didn't believe that he was going to be that guy, if you didn't want to give him the chance to develop to be that guy after what he endured in Chicago, why did you sign him? You're the one that had Aaron Glenn basically tell Aaron Rodgers, like, hey, we good on you, and walk out the door. So this falls on your lap, Woody Johnson. It falls on you as the owner. So I'm glad that they got the win. I'm happy for Aaron Glenn, because I didn't understand when people were talking about, does Aaron Glenn need to be fired? I said, what coach do you think was going to come in and turn this around in one season?
Mm-hmm.
It's dysfunctional. So you got to give Aaron Glenn a chance to build this thing in his own image. And if he believes that Justin Fields can do that with him, then give them the chance. You got to understand. I think what's not talked about enough is with these quarterbacks, when you put them in such bad situations, the mental damage that it does for them. You're trying to repair it. You're trying to fix his way of thinking, fix it so he's not afraid to take chances, worried about that he's going to make a mistake and get yanked and all this stuff. Those are things. Those are real life emotions and real life situations that you got to think about. So you have those situations come about, and you're the owner, not the head coach, not the QB coach, not the offense coordinator, not any of his teammates. The owner to come out and say that is crazy to me. But shout out to Aaron Glenn. I hope that they can succeed despite the owner, which is easier said than done. We understand that dynamic.
Yes, we do.
Done, but I hope they can right the ship with that franchise, despite Woody's ignorance as an owner.
The Colts 38, the Titans 14. The Colts NFL best, Tristan. NFL best. 7-1. Okay, Lucas is driving. They got the oil back. Okay, they doing what they supposed to do in there, dropping dimes. Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones. Could you believe it? Hey, shout out to Giants. 21-29, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, 12 carries. He's still doing some good things in this league, Tristan. 12 carries, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. We know all well, and look at me when I say this, because we're not going to talk about that, but we all know well Cinderella seasons and Cinderella stories. Is this theirs this year? Could we be looking at the Colts as a team to beat going into the playoffs?
I mean, right now they got the best record in the league. And Jonathan Taylor, I mean,
resurrect.
It's the right situation for Daniel Jones. It really is. It doesn't. You're not asking him. Excuse me. You're not asking him to be the guy, but you are asking him to be you're asking him to be a guy. You're asking him to be a cog in this machine, and he's doing just that. Mm-hmm. Let me be clear. Never said Daniel Jones wasn't talented.
No.
Let me be clear about that. We never said Daniel Jones couldn't play. What we said was what the Giants were looking for out of Daniel Jones, he could never live up to that billing. They wanted him to be that 6th overall pick, and he was not going to be that. And so you put him down in the Colts, no expectations. You got a strong running game. You got good weapons. Got him a reliable tight end. Giants, did you pay attention? Get him an offensive line. Give him a tight end. Give him some receivers. Give him a strong run game. And then you could build around it and see what can happen. How long this is going to last, I don't know. But when you're not asking him to be the guy to stir the drink, but he could be one of the ice cubes, good things will happen. And that's what's happening right down there for the Colts right now. Jonathan Taylor, Jonathan Taylor is having an MVP like season at the running back position. He's doing
Yes.
awesome. Um, he might flirt with LaDainian Thompson's touchdown record when before the season's out.
Oh,
So
don't talk about that now.
I mean, he might. I mean, he's on the pace. He's on pace,
Now
and
he's
so
gonna come out and try to say something about somebody getting the record. They always never want you to get the record.
he's on pace. He's on pace. I mean, can't deny it. And Daniel Jones is not making the mistakes that he was making in uh in New York. And what's so crazy though is he did an interview. I can't remember if it was on Pat McAfee show or if it was on the Bussin' with the Boys. But he did an interview and they asked him what was the difference between the New York and the Colts. And he said the way that they go about orchestrating their game plan was a lot more structured in Indianapolis than it was in New York. Now that's saying something even in regards to Daboll's tenure. Now it's working out with Jackson Dart, but that's something to say. Where in his mind, it's like it was simplified for him in Indianapolis than it was in New York to allow him to kind of play the way he's playing. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the Colts pan out with through the year because this has been one of the most parody like seasons for the NFL that we've seen in a long while, where we can't really pinpoint who is the team.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like the Chiefs are heading in that direction again. They're getting healthy. But it's like we're like basically halfway through the year and we still haven't seen like what's the team that really beats. So it's interesting.
This was a good one. I'm done. I have nothing else to have you talk about. Anything else you want to mention?
No. Like I said, I think I said it in that last line. Like this has been one of the more parody like seasons. It's crazy. The World Series has been awesome.
Yes.
Otani is man, he's one of one, man. I think I didn't think we were going to see our generation's version of Babe Ruth, but we're watching it. It's Babe Ruth on steroids, man. No pun intended, because Otani's not steroids, but like he's awesome.
The Six might lose another one. No Drake intended.
Yeah, for real. And I love Vladdy. I wish Vladdy Jr. would get it, but I don't know. This is Otani's era.
Repeat again. This is good. Well, America, I'm saying again, best to your homeland, best to Jamaica. I've never been, and I pray that this doesn't bring it down to what the beauty of Jamaica. Even in all this going on, you have to even love the spirit of Jamaicans. and they're making something that you would think that people would be crying over. They're making it this jovial thing, but wishing them the best over there. And hopefully one day I get a chance to enjoy the beauty of that country. I've been saying, like I say it every week, happy Halloween too, people. Every year I want to be lavender, and one year I'm gonna get it. Okay, I'm trying. Shout out to Miss Trunchbull. I've been saying every week, like I said all the time. I'm Mikkel at Kevin McHale. Tristan, till we do this again. America, peace.